It's time to ban off-road ATVs from public lands. Soil compaction impacting micro-aquatic wetland pond life, soil erosion degrading water quality, inviting illegal dumping, fragmenting wetlands with illegal trails, increasing the runoff, destroying vegetation, killing tadpoles and fairy shrimps for no good reason. The noise scares away the birds and other wildlife.
There's a spadefoot toad swimming without a tail. Just wanted to show you that some of them have lost their tails and others have tails but have been flattened by the motor vehicles driving through the pond. I mean, come on. What are you doing here? Here's the spadefoot toad. Got a little bit of the tail left, but he's about ready to lose the tail, hopping around. And they'll be burrowing into the mud here and attempting to survive for a year with a little bit of water that they're puffed up with and wait for the next cycle. So driving over the pond is a kind of a malicious act of vandalism, and it's against the law. I just hope you all grow up and just don't do that. Come on, give nature a chance to renew itself. Give the wetland water a chance to have their day. Okay, thank you. You can see spadefoot toads still if you want to come out here and enjoy that and watch the cycle of life. But please call upon your neighbors to stop driving their recreational vehicles off-road. It's illegal to drive them on the trails. There are actual roads they can drive on through the East Mesa. There are the gas line road that runs over to the Las Cruces Dam. They can drive on that all they want. That's legal. But as soon as they go off trail or into the pond or down to the dam, that's not legal. Even if you're hunting, you got to get off your vehicle and get on foot and have a actual license. They're starting to shoot up the pond again with shells, so mothers, watch your children as you're walking through the pond, because people are firing guns illegally, I guess trying to hit the tadpoles. I mean, what's the sport in that? Thank you. Bureau of Land Management rules are that you can go off-road with motorized vehicles, and you can go on trails that are animal trails, walking trails, any kind of trails. Now, what that doesn't do is help the nature, the wild, to persist, particularly in the wetlands. When you take off-road vehicles on those trails, you go off the road, then you start destroying the wetlands. And that's what we have here. This is a wetland ephemeral pond, which means it fills with rainwater in the monsoon months of the summer. So there's about 5 or 6 weeks where these little toads, you see that one hopping around there with the tail on it? You see other tadpoles swimming, but it's unlikely they're going to reach maturity. These ones that have the back legs will be able to burrow down into the mud while it's still mud, and they will hibernate for a year, waiting for the next monsoon to fill the pond. And there's a danger here with the off-road vehicles in any pond that the heavy metal thunder of the motors and the vibrations of the exhaust and the tires jumping around will be a false alert for the New Mexico spadefoot toad to come out of hibernation. And of course they would die because there's no water at that, except during the monsoon season, for about 5 weeks. Given climate change, though, that's changing, and we're going to see in the desert, we're going to see less water on the ground and in the aquifers, and already in New Mexico there's concern that the water tables are dropping, and what's in the reservoirs is not really great. Here's another little fella. He's just sitting there quietly, hoping not to be noticed. Now these toads here that you see here, you see that one? That's a carnivore toad. You can tell by the shape of it, the big head, the pointed jaw, the serrated mouth, and they'll eat everything that lives, that they can get their mouth around. The parents decide to have carnivore children at this stage of the pond because they're more likely to survive. And when the pond was full, there was mainly omnivore hatchings by the same parent group that's now hatching these carnivores. So the race for both the fairy shrimp and the spadefoot toad is to mate, hatch their young. The fairy shrimp will hatch these cysts that'll lay in the mud, and they don't hatch every year. They might be every other year or every third year, because otherwise all the birds would figure it out and eat them. Temporal ponds are really great niches for the spadefoot toad and the fairy shrimp, because you don't have fish that are going to eat them all up. And okay, so what are we talking about here? There's a contradiction in the rules about off-road vehicles between the Bureau of Land Management and the State Land Office. Okay, and then there's other organizations involved, Fish and Wildlife, for example, right? U.S. Forestry, not so much forest here in this area. Protected parklands like the Oregon Mountain Project. The new bill for public lands, which takes fracking money, oil, gas, and coal money, and gives it over to certain environmental groups to buy up land or lease them. What am I doing? Well, I'm trying to educate about the differences in policies and rules and regulations between city, county, Bureau of Land Management, State Land Office, Fish and Wildlife, state park, state forest, and the rest of them. I call it a trans-organizational system. So it's a trans-organizational network of institutions. Okay, so I've reset the cross in the pond. The idea is maybe some people that have some kind of spiritual upbringing will associate the cross with respecting the spirituality of nature and the living right of little creatures that are microscopic and ones that are actually crawling around these stones looking for shelter as the onslaught of the recreational vehicle industry takes place. So
there are good places to ride on the roads and not on the trail, so let's regulate it or ban it altogether. That's the way I see it, because the water is more important than the recreational vehicle industry. Thank you very much, David Boje.